and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh, let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
All right, top of the morning to you, everybody. How's everybody doing? Running a couple of minutes late. Had a couple of issues on the YouTube this morning. Getting the feed going on the YouTube. Had a correction or two to make. But good morning wherever you're at. If you're on the Facebook, if you're on the Twitter, if you're on the Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, wherever you listen to the show, either live or recorded, we say good morning to all of you, and even those we don't like. We love all of you. We love all of you because that's what we do. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here. Florida checking in. How's Lakeland, Florida? Boy, I wish I was in Florida. It's cold here in Colorado, where we're originating the show from. So wish I was in Florida right now, but I'll just be jealous. That's what I will be indeed. Everybody had a good Christmas. Delilah had a good Christmas, I think. She got some sparkly things she's wearing seemingly this morning. Actually, she didn't dress up at all. She looks kind of slack-haired around here. You know, the office is half open here at the Lakey Entertainment Towers. Not required to be here. I'm a benevolent dictator. But Delilah did show up to do a little bit of work, and glad she dressed appropriately. That's more than she does in her dancing job, dressing appropriately. All right, good to talk to you. Roger says, good morning from the snowless western edge of the Sawatch, I don't know how to say that, mountains of Colorado. It's also, I just say Sasquatch because I like it better. Everybody check Missouri. Good morning. 52-degree temperature change in 12 hours. 68 degrees to start yesterday in the teens this morning. Rich, bundle up there, buddy. Bundle up there. It's a chilly one there in Missouri. Nice to have all of you here. All right. I hope you had a great holiday, Christmas season. We're on for 2 days this week. We're going to do Monday and Tuesday. That's today and tomorrow. And then we're going to be taking some time off for the New Year's Eve. And then we'll get back to a regular schedule next week. So we'll be here today and tomorrow. Don't miss that. How are you going to spend the New Year's Eve? We'll talk about that throughout the course of the next 2 days. America did a survey. They surveyed Americans, and Americans say their favorite New Year's Eve activity is, you ready? Drum roll, please. If you're headed to the New Year's Eve bash, a poll said that's the second best thing you can do. 3,000 Americans were polled, and the top thing we want to do on New Year's Eve is stay home and watch Netflix. 35% say binge watching Netflix is the top way that they want to ring in the new year. 24% would rather go to a big New Year's Eve party with all their friends. So which one are you? Are you one that wants to go watch the Netflix on your couch, or you want to go out and doll yourself up and head off to a party? I'm over the parties. I've hosted parties before. I went to parties and I started hosting parties, and now I'm done. I'm over. And the parties became small gatherings. Like, hey, I got 2 people. You want to come over and party? Yeah, that's it. I don't have any plans for New Year's Eve. 20% say, third on the list is just go to bed and get some sleep before midnight. And 10% say, I'm just going to sit around and scroll through my phone on social media. I don't give a rat's patootie what I do. So most folks say they want to watch the Netflix on the New Year's Eve. So what do you want to do on New Year's Eve? I got a question I want to get to this fraud in Minnesota topic of conversation. Reached out to Nick Shirley a couple of times to try to get him on the program. I'm sure he's just swamped. Haven't heard from him. He's the reporter that has really broken this story about Minnesota fraud. I've got some audio and video from him. If you haven't followed it, he went out and did what the mainstream media doesn't do and went out and reported on fraud. Went out and found out where all these taxpayer dollars were going in Minnesota under the auspices and under the watchful eye of Tim Walz. There's something else also that you need to pay attention to. Remember, right before the election, sometime last year, there were 2 people assassinated in Minnesota, and there was a legislator and her husband, and she was a legislator that actually went on the record and voted against some of this funding of some of this fraudulent stuff. She wanted to cut. They said, "Oh, you can't cut this off. You're going to cut off aid to the children in the daycares, and it's going to be horrible what you do." And she was a Democrat, and she got killed. And some people are now saying, let's go back and look at this little assassination that happened. How is it that the only Democrat in the state of Minnesota that stood up as an elected official and stood up and said, we're not going to allow this type of fraudulent spending and we're not going to spend this stuff. She was ready to kind of doge some of the spending in Minnesota, and she got gunned down at her house. And some people are saying maybe they should go back and look at that maybe it's not all that much of a coincidence. I'll play the Nick Shirley video here in just a minute. I want to get your take on it. What we're watching in Minnesota, is there going to be some prosecutions? I hope so. But I also have another question of the day. Time magazine comes out every year and announces a person of the year. This year, they did not name a person of the year. They named, how do you say it? Is this persons of the year? They basically say the 2025 person of the year is the architects of AI, artificial intelligence. The magazine cited 2025 when the potential of the artificial intelligence roared into view, and there's no turning back for delivering of thinking machines for wowing, worrying humanity, transforming the present, and transcending the possible. The architects of AI are Time Magazine's person of the year. Let me ask you, first of all, do you agree with that? Is that the person of the year? And if you were naming the person of the year, if there was the Jimmy Lakey person of the year, if there was the Rich or Roger or Daniel or Mary or whoever, I'm just kind of scrolling through some of the names I've seen on the screen. If you could name your person of the year, who should it be? Who would you name to be your person of the year? Love to get your take on that. That is the question of the day for all of you. Scott says, back to the other topic about, he says, at my age, I've become a couch potato and rather enjoy it. He spells potato like Dan Quayle does. You see that? Potato, just like Dan Quayle. Just like Dan Quayle does. You know what happened to Dan Quayle when he spelled potato that way? Yeah. Scott also says the AI is the end of the world as we know it. And that could be good. That could be bad. You don't know. All right. So who's the person of the year? If you get to name your Scott or Roger, RJ, a person of the year, who is your person of the year? And let me know, is it the architects of AI, or do you have someone specific that you would like to nominate for that? All right. If you haven't followed the Nick Shirley reporting, he's a viral reporter, internet reporter, has a Twitter feed. He was out reporting in Portland and Seattle a couple of weeks ago when mainstream media wasn't. This is a summation of what he found in Minnesota. He went door to door into office buildings and found daycares, dozens, lots of them, I will say dozens, that had no children, and they were locked doors. And you looked in, and they're like waving at you, and they're just taking. But he had the records of how many millions of dollars these daycares had taken. So here we go. This is Nick Shirley in Minnesota. Go.
Massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong, and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday, and if you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working, midday, children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing, and like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
That's Nick Shirley. Reached out to him, trying to get him on the show. I'm sure he's swamped right now with the request, but I haven't heard back from him. We'll try to get him on here the next day or so, but it's fraud. He was going around to different daycare centers just like that, knocking on the door and asking, hey, I'd like to enroll my child, Johnny, in the daycare. And people are like, we don't have children here. If you go look him up, Nick Shirley, on the Facebook, on the Twitter, wherever you find him. I know a lot of his stuff's up on Twitter, and you can find it, or X as we call it now. And it's stunning what they're showing there. Also, I'll get to more of this in just a bit, but I do want you to know This is what Kash Patel said. Kash Patel said the FBI is aware of recent social media reports in Minnesota. However, even before the public conversation escalated online, the FBI had surged personnel and investigative resources to Minnesota to dismantle large-scale fraud schemes exploiting federal programs. Fraud that steals from taxpayers, robs vulnerable children, and will remain a top priority of the FBI in Minnesota and nationwide. To date, the FBI has dismantled $250 million fraud scheme that stole federal food aid meant for vulnerable children during COVID. The investigation exposed sham vendors, shell companies, large-scale money laundering tied to the Feeding Our Future network. That case led to 78 indictments already, 57 convictions. Defendants include a long list of names. These criminals didn't just engage in historic fraud, but tried to subvert justice, as well as, and it goes on with some of the attempting to bribe a juror with money and cash. And Kash Patel says, "Don't worry, kids, we're on it." I'm ready to see some perp walks happening, and hopefully the Nick Shirley video is a wake-up call to the Justice Department and to Pamela Bondi that their work there in Minnesota is not done, and they need to get on it and get this stuff shut down. Roger says Somali TV had a Facebook post attempting to damage control, saying they're required to protect the children and not allow them to be filmed. They limited who could comment. Not surprising, the Somali government or the Somali television. What have they contributed to America other than Ilhan Omar and some other incestuous goofiness that's happened through some of those folks? Nothing, absolutely nothing. And if they're here illegally, maybe like Ilhan Omar, maybe you should go bye-bye back to the motherland. I think the motherland would be a great stop for you. If you watch the Nick Shirley stuff, it wasn't just they weren't letting the kids be filmed. There were no kids there. There were absolutely no children in the buildings, and some of the buildings were totally locked up, and it's quite interesting. Go watch the Nick Shirley reporting. All right, good morning to everybody. Glad to have you here. We got a question of the day booming out there. We'll come back, talk more about the Minnesota fraud, but I got a question of the day for you today, as we have two shows this week, Monday and Tuesday, today and tomorrow. Then we'll be off for the rest of the week till next year. I have to ask you this question. Who is your person of the year? Time Magazine has determined that the architects of AI are the person of the year. Who would you nominate for person of the year if you had your own magazine and you were going to give an award out? Dave says he would nominate Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump would be the person of the year. Here's a suggestion. Would Charlie Kirk be your person of the year? Would Charlie Kirk be your person of the year? Like to get your take. Who would you nominate for person of the year? And then back to the Minnesota Tim Waltz story. Rich says, if Somalians contribute so much, why do they need so much government assistance? That's a great question. They're such great contributors. They hold up our society. Then if they're such great contributors, why do they need our money to do it? All right. Millions of taxpayer dollars, my friends, are getting ripped off. Highway Living says, absolutely, Donald J. Trump is the person of the year. Who would you nominate person of the year? That is your question of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to our first guest of the morning. Got a cast of characters. Michael Letts is going to be on the show. Also, our favorite private investigator in the world, Nils Grivillius, is going to be on the show. We'll talk with them in just a bit. Michael Letts and Nils Grivillius. But please welcome from SaveTheWest.com, Kenneth Abramowitz. I'll remind you about Mr. Abramowitz and his esteemed websites here in just a minute. But he joins us in the green room. He's written a book called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. That's the latest book, SaveTheWest.com. Mr. Abramowitz, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Great to be with you as always.
Pleasure to have you here, sir, in the on the program. Let's talk about some things that I think have become very scary this 2025, reflecting back, is the rise of anti-Semitism in America. Even among conservatives, there's a brouhaha between Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, regarding Israel and regarding how we should react to Israel. Australia has seen a rise in anti-Semitism. That's probably one of the big stories if you kind of go down to the top 5 in 2025. Anti-Semitism seems to be on the rise, sir.
Yes. And anti-Semitism is a little bit like if you have an infection, pretend, and you have 101 temperature. You look at the temperature and say, there's something wrong. Anti-Semitism is like a thermometer. There's something wrong in the society that produces anti-Semitism. And so the question is, what is the disease behind anti-Semitism that's fermenting anti-Semitism? Bear in mind, Jews are only 16 million people in a world of 8 billion. And in America, 2% of America. In Europe, 1% of America. In the Middle East, there's 500 million people. In Israel's 10 million people. So why is everyone going crazy over Jews? They're such a small piece. And the disease is Jews represent the rule of law, the 10 Commandments, in modern day Constitution and Bill of Rights. So who hates the rule of law? They're called criminals. So the criminals in the world are fomenting anti-Semitism to protect themselves from criticism of their being criminals. So we have to go after the criminals, which I'm happy to describe who the criminals are who are financing and fomenting this anti-Semitism.
Yeah, let's dive into that, because I think it's important to get to the root cause of the problem. Who are these people?
Okay. Well, as we've discussed before, I color code them: the reds, the greens, and the blues. The reds for the communists or former communists. That's China, Russia, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba. Their fingerprints are all over the place. And then there's the greens, the Islamists, not Islam, the Islamists, the countries that are imposing Islam on other people, which is illegal. And that would be Qatar and Turkey and Iran. Their fingerprints are all over the place. And then you have the blue criminals. By the way, they're all criminal organizations. They're all unelected. They're all illegitimate. And then you have the globalists. That's the United color-coded blue for the UN colors, but it's also the World Economic Forum and the drug cartels, some of the social media companies, and they're also fermenting anti-Semitism. All of them hate the rule of law. All of them hate God. All of them hate individuals, freedom, or as we say in America, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for everybody. They're all elitists, dictatorships, and they're purposely using anti-Semitism to separate Jews and Christians on the theory that they're actually after the Christians. The Jews just happen to be in the way. Judaism's the foundation of Christianity, and that's why they decided to target the Jews, because they're after the Christians.
Let me ask you this brouhaha that's kind of erupted on the right. We know that the Democrats or liberals have been, Columbia University and these universities have allowed anti-Semitism on their campus. But some people say that in the conservative ranks, in the right flank of politics in America, you've had political leaders with some anti-Semitic comments or anti-Israel comments. Tucker Carlson has actually been named by the Stop Anti-Semitism group their anti-Semite of the year. Give me your thoughts of this this flanking of alleged anti-Semitism that's happening on the supposed right of the country.
Yes, this is very disturbing. I can I don't like, but I can understand anti-Semitism on the left. And the left I just described, the reds, the greens, and the blues are basically the left. And I can understand why they hate Jews or pretend hate Jews, because they're after Christianity and they're after God. They're basically pagans. Okay, this is, I call it World War III, but it comes right out of biblical times. It's God versus the pagans. So I understand how pagans think and why they want to destroy God and Jews and Christians. What I don't understand is why would people, you could say on the right, I just call them people who are normal. Why would normal people want to oppose, use anti-Semitism as a wedge? Well, I think some of them are being financed by the reds, the greens, and the blues. I think that underneath their cloak, so to speak, they're actually agents for Qatar, for example, or Iran, because those countries are paying off so many of our public officials. So that could be a cause for this. Another cause is that there's a group of people, I don't think it's large, maybe 10% of Christians, who think that are, I would call Christian supremacists, who think that Christianity came after Judaism and Judaism is therefore null and void. By the way, the Muslims say this about Jews and Christians. They say Islam came after Judaism and Christianity and is replaced. It's a replacement theory. And so I think some of these people are deranged into a replacement theory and don't understand that under Western civilization, we're 95% the same. We disagree 5% of the time, but we don't kill each other because we disagree 5% of the time. And we accept minority views. So I think these people are just off the reservation, but I think they're being paid by the Reds, the Greens, or the Blues.
All right, real quick. By the way, if you're listening to the audio portion of the show, where thousands of earballs will hear this show on Spotify, iHeart, all the podcast platforms out there. Kenneth Abramowitz is my guest. His website, SaveTheWest.com. We'll talk about that in a moment, and also about his latest book. Mr. Abramowitz, while we've been celebrating the holiday season, a lot of folks have not been paying attention to what's happening in Israel and Gaza. There's been a little dust up of tension. Evidently, the White House and Benjamin Netanyahu are going to be getting together here real soon. So you have that saga. And then there's also a story that Israel has struck an energy deal with Egypt. So kind of give us the lay of the land. I think it's kind of been off the radar screen since we had the peace deal that Donald Trump announced, and nobody's been paying attention to what's happening in the Middle East.
Yes. Well, there's Muslims and there's Islamists. Israel has learned and Muslims have learned how to get along with Israel. Not that they love each other, but they can benefit from each other's expertise in various areas. So Israel signed this deal with Egypt, which is a positive. Israel just recognized Somaliland, a Muslim portion of Somalia, which is a positive. And Israel and Lebanon want to work together. And so there's a lot of positive developments. But first, the Islamists have to be defeated. By the way, the number one victim of Islamism are the Muslims. Okay. Hamas killed 60,000 of its own people in Gaza. Couldn't care less about the so-called Palestinians. So in 2026, Israel and America have to go after the remnants of Hamas militarily. There's no non-military solution. And we also have to go after Iran. There's no non-military solution. So when you're dealing with Islamists, there's no non-military solution. When you're dealing with Muslims, there's plenty of non-military and economic solutions when rational people sit down at a table together.
Let me ask you last question before we talk about your book and your website. And it's about these Somali immigrants that have infiltrated, obviously, Minnesota. And obviously, they come from a country that has different values. They have imported themselves here as refugees, however they got here. And now we find out massive amounts of fraud. Did the United States make an unwise decision by letting so many Somalians in this country, and perhaps maybe at least should have done a better job of vetting them? Give me your thoughts on the Minnesota situation.
Well, there's Muslims who believe who want to integrate with Judeo-Christian culture, and there's Muslims who believe in Sharia law, which is law of the desert from 1400 years ago. So when someone believes in Sharia law, they should not be allowed in the country. It's that simple. But we didn't vet these people, and we allow people who believe in Sharia law who come as invaders. They're not coming to join us. They're coming to invade and take over us. We have no responsibility to allow people to invade our country and take over and then replace Jews, Christians, and Hindus with Muslims from the 7th century. So we just didn't protect ourselves, just as the Europeans too. And we have to fix that. We have to start deporting Islamists. Anyone who says, I believe in Sharia law and I want to kill all the Christians, Jews, and Hindus, my response is, see you later, alligator. Okay, you're on the next plane out of here. We cannot have people who do not accept the right of Christians, Jews, and Hindus to live in America. I mean, hello, they shouldn't be here or they should be in jail.
Yeah. Your website, SaveTheWest.com. I'll let you talk about that. Also, you have the latest book called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Kenneth Abramowitz, SaveTheWest.com. I'll let you tell us which one we need to go to the website, get the book, all of the above.
Yes, I have a website, SaveTheWest.com. I write an article every 2 weeks. It's complimentary. People should sign up. And I wrote this book, The Multi-Front War, about 5 years ago. I updated it 4 times, the most recently just a few months ago. And so you get a very current update of current affairs in that book. And people should just go right to the last chapter. It's Trump 2.0, and they'll see my forecast for 25 and now for 2026.
Let's do that real quick. I'll let you tease it. Obviously, anti-Semitism was on the rise in 2025. Is part of your forecast? Are we going to dial back some of this anti-Semitic behavior? What's part of the forecast? Give the tease, sir, for 2026.
Yes. Well, actually, people who subscribe, my next article will be on a 2026 forecast. And I think the Trump administration is doing a good job, but needs to do a great job addressing anti-Semitism, or anti-Jew hatred, as some people call it, and anti-Christian behavior. And has to do a much better job doing it and educating the people as to why it's important. And I think we have to start criminalizing certain elements that incitement to genocide. I don't think people should have the right to say, I want to kill all the Jews and Christians and Hindus in America and get away with it. I think they should go right to jail or be deported. And so when someone says globalize the intifada, I'd say that's a code word for kill all the Jews in the world. I say, no, that's not freedom of speech. That should be illegal, and you should be in jail or deported. So hopefully we see much stronger response from the administration in 2026.
Go sign up, get the newsletter. The comments you just heard, he'll explain more in a publication coming out. SaveTheWest.com, SaveTheWest.com. Kenneth Abramowitz, it's been a pleasure this year. We'll catch you next year. Happy New Year to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. It's great to be with you.
Great to be with you, sir. Kenneth Abramowitz, SaveTheWest.com. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. Jimmy is my name. Pleasure, please. Again, programming note, we will not be here at the rest of, we'll be here today and tomorrow. We won't be here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll resume after the first of the year, and we'll partake together starting next year. Let me take a pause here, if I may, and remind you about one of our fantastic friends, Sherry Cree. HomesWithSherry.com is her website. I know you're right smack dab between the Christmas and New Year's. If you're like in my house, my house is a mess. There's clutter. My son still, he hooked his new video game up to the main television in the main room, and that has been his video gaming station for the last couple of days. So I know you're not thinking about your house right now. You're not thinking about staging your house right now. You still got empty wrapping paper stuffed in the corner, perhaps. Listen, you do need to start contemplating, though, when will you get in touch with Sherry Cree? You want 2026 to be different. You want to maybe make a real estate move. Maybe you're trying to upsize, downsize. Maybe you're trying to move out of the area, in the area, wherever you're trying to go. You need to have that strategy, and HomesWithSherry.com. Sherry Cree is going to give you absolutely positively opportunity to develop the strategy. She knows that that real estate can create generational wealth, but you need to play the game to the best of your ability. You need to play it right. For instance, did you know that the spring selling season, if you do it at the wrong time or the right time, there's a long spring selling season, but there's an early one, there's a late one. One's more sellers, usually goes more seller, one goes more buyer. Sherry's talked about this on this program extensively. And so you list your home too late in the spring, you could end up costing yourself tens of thousands of dollars. Listen, whether you're buyer or seller, HomesWithSherry.com, get that strategy going, HomesWithSherry.com. And don't forget, you ready for this? Don't forget that Sherry will donate a portion of her proceeds on any transaction to the charity of your choice. If you're a veteran serving the military, she will discount her commission as well, just to make the dream of homeownership better for you. You need to reach out to her. Plan out your 2026 real estate transaction, whether it's just a thought in the back of your head or whether you know you got to take action. HomesWithSherry.com. 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 All right, our next guest is coming up, and I want to remind you, our question of the day has to do with the Time Magazine Person of the Year. Who would you say is the Person of the Year? Time Magazine said the architects of AI are the Person of the Year. Who is the person of the year in your estimation? If you were giving away an award, who would be your who would be your Lakey person of the year, or your Michael Letts person of the year, or who would be your person of the year? Who would you name if you had a magazine and you'd stick someone's face on top of it? Who would be your person of the year for 2025? That is your question of the day, sir. And ma'am and madam and mistress, and those of you who aren't quite sure, I'd love to hear from you as well. Who is your person of the year? Let us know. All right, Michael Letts, investusa.org, is there in his beautiful studio. Michael Letts, good morning, sir. How was the Christmas at the Letts household?
Oh, it was fantastic, Jimmy. I appreciate your asking, and all the puppies send their regards and tell Santa he was very good to all the puppies. So they're wanting to stick around a lot longer. That was not the intent. I'm a little put out with Santa about, wanting the puppies to be able to stay here. They need to find their forever homes.
They got to find a home. If you need a big Doberman puppy, you should reach out to Michael Letts, because he's trying to get rid of them. I think the wife's just trying to move you out and move the puppies in.
I have suspected that for some time, Jimmy. I am working on a strategy to counteract that at the moment.
All right, Michael, if you could look at all the news stories you and I have talked about, we've covered this year, who's our person of the year? Some people say maybe a Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump. Time Magazine says it's not a person, it's the architects of AI. Any suggestion on Michael Letts' person of the year?
Well, sure. I'd be delighted to tell you that, Jimmy. I think that we're missing the boat. I don't think it is AI. I don't even think it is a person. I think it's the American people, patriots of this country, who were able to stop a collapse of America and are trying to recover our country back for our future generations.
Somebody suggested that the agents of ICE should be persons of the year, to protecting our country. Let me ask you this. I like you have been frustrated with the slowness of what happens in Washington. I know that there's a lot of gum on the bottom of the shoes that kind of make it harder to move fast. I'm watching this Minnesota fraud happening, and I see two things. First of all, Nick Shirley blew the lid off of it this weekend with some great reporting, and Kash Patel put out a statement and said, yeah, we've got some prosecutions. We're looking into it. The media is not driving this story. The mainstream media, they're behind. Nick Shirley's gone viral, and I'm not even seeing, maybe I'm missing something, the Department of Justice take the lead on this thing. Am I missing something? It seems like we're kind of passive, like, we'll deal with that after the holidays.
Well, here's what is not being reported unless you got inside connections you wouldn't know. The Bureau is moving a whole division into Minnesota. They are setting up a special team, special operations. We're going to go after this one like the old Southern ideology says, white on rice. We're going to go after this one, and really it's going to be definitely brought to justice. I think Tim Walz is going to be seeing an awful lot of inside walls, shall we say, that he's not expecting to be able to wanted to have in his future. This is a major operation. We're not talking about now, it's over $8 billion. It's escalating every day. We're talking about the scope of those involved from elected officials is escalating, not just now in Minnesota, but even in Washington, even those who oversaw these programs. And the fact of the matter that we had so many state employees who identified the problem, attempted to alert people, do the whistleblowers like they were supposed to, and retribution was rained upon them instead, that's going to end very badly for those who tried to provide retribution.
Michael, there was a legislator in the Minnesota legislature that actually voted against some of the spending. One of the only Democrats in Minnesota that went on record voting against us last year. And she was assassinated with her husband at her home last year. There's some people speculating that maybe we should revisit that. Have these Somalian networks and this money network gotten so bad that she was an obstacle? It's speculation, I guess, at this point. But it is interesting that was her last vote, was voting against some of this nonsense spending.
I think it's not just speculation. I think there's accuracy to it, Jimmy. And that's one of the things we're going to be pressing. And here where the frustration you and I share commonality here is, sometimes in law enforcement, on a federal level, we're looking to give you a quick solution. We solved that one, let's move on, when we didn't dig in deep enough and find out where the core problem was at. We're going to try to make sure we oversee that this time and go back if necessary, and make sure that we tie in all the loose ends, because I, quite frankly, feel very strongly, Jimmy, that there is a strong connection there, and it's not just with he was a former Speaker of the House who you were talking about was assassinated, she and her husband. It not just lies within them; it lies within quite a few elements within the legislature there, including Republicans.
Yeah. Let me ask you, from what you're seeing and observing and also hearing, how high up is this going to investigation? A lot of folks say Tim Walz should resign. Some people are envisioning him in orange. In your estimation, how far into the leadership of Minnesota government does this go?
I think it goes much higher than just Minnesota government than Tim Walz. Yes, Tim Walz is certainly a major factor, but I think you're going to find it goes all the way to the former presidency. How this started. It started with Obama, as you will recall, bringing in the Somali groups. We've got allies in Omar and others. I think you're going to see it going all the way to D.C. and be very predominant in D.C. Here's what you have to understand. I like the question that you raised, Jimmy. Understand, I've mentioned this before. You're going to be hearing more about it in the first of the year. We have tribunals underway. We have investigations underway for the Obama administration, President Obama himself, James Comey, John Brennan, et cetera, et cetera. The question will then become, one is for treason and sedition. Now you're talking about some of the results of this sedition and treason, what it's costing the taxpayers, the fraud, how they were funding it, et cetera. So can you build that bridge and tie the two in together and make it one, or is it two separate investigations? Why is that important? They're both major, major events. If they're two separate investigations, the manpower necessary to complete them both the way they should be done is going to be a little bit concerning.
Let me ask you a question, Michael. That's, by the way, my guest. If you're listening later on in the day on the podcast version, where thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day, end of the week. Michael Letts, his website, investusa.org, investusa.org. I also want to ask you about ICE. We have a lot of these folks that have overstayed their welcome. Some of them, maybe like Ilhan Omar, we think should maybe even lied on their immigration visa application. Is ICE on the move now in Minnesota? Is it time to move a few more folks out to ICE and maybe Dearborn, Michigan? Or
I have been suggesting
Minnesota.
that. We've been pressing that, and yes, that message has been received. Let me make sure our listeners clearly understand. You know, the president cannot grant you citizenship, Jimmy. They can simply give you protected status while you come over in some form or fashion on some visa, some kind of paperwork to be in this country while you're working to become a citizen. Of course, that happened in the Obama administration. The question is, these visas are not open-ended. They're specifically time-framed, okay? Well, a year, 5 years, whatever the time frame is. And it is our estimation that probably 80 to 90% of those that we're dealing with, we were over 100,000 Somalians, are probably here now on, if you check that paperwork, you're probably going to see a little red flashing light. It's been expired for some time. And so the question will then become that you're going to hear the argument. Of course, the mainstream media will jump on this. Well, why would you just move them if they've been such delightful people to have? Well, if you begin to take a look at the,
they're delightful, all right.
If you begin to take a look at the videos, such as, them dancing in the street when, Mondani got elected, hey, America is coming to an end, death to America, et cetera. They're not so delightful. And it's time. It's still a crime, Jimmy. We have to acknowledge that situation. If you're here illegally, you're a felon, and it's time for you to go. And we're going to have to make sure we as Americans stand firm on this issue. The mainstream media is trying to make you feel bad. Oh, you must be privileged. You must be, have some kind of white, American privilege, whatever we want to call it. And you're a bad person for not viewing these people with compassion. It has nothing to do with compassion. Compassion is making sure that we protect those who are here legally first, who are American citizens in their future. And that's what we're going to do.
Michael Letts, investusa.org. Michael, obviously we talked about the person of the year. 2026 is going to be a big one. You think it's going to be a big one for some upcoming prosecutions that may catch some people's eye. Any further predictions on that or anything else in 2026?
I think what you're going to see, and this is where I want to be encouraging to our listeners, we're not talking about the end of 2026. I think within the first quarter, you're going to see some major developments on some key issues or some key personnel that we've been talking about. And here's what I want to remind the American people. Once you open that can of worms, you better stand back and get out of the way, because Lord knows what's going to come out of it. But it's going to be a lot more than just the initial opening of that can. You're going to see just case after case getting built on top of that. it's amazing when you turn on the light, all the roaches scurry. And they're all going to be saying, hey, don't look at me. I can give you something bigger to look at. So it's going to be a very interesting prosecutorial year in 2026.
InvestUSA.org, InvestUSA.org. Michael, it's been a pleasure being with you this year. I look forward to the next year, and thank you very much, and good luck with the dogs, sir.
Well, thank you. God bless. God bless America. Have a wonderful end of this year. I'll see you next year, Jimmy.
You see, Michael, let's InvestUSA.org. Keeping law enforcement officers safe on the streets. Active shooter vest, he's got those. That's what they provide. ICE is obviously in danger with the radicals out there. So if you want to help somebody out, come home safely for the next year, help those law enforcement agents, whether they're federal, local, you get the idea that they give the vest on them and the equipment that they need. InvestUSA.org. Every dollar makes a big difference. Every dollar counts. InvestUSA.org. Everybody had a good Christmas, right? A fantastic one. I had a good one. Went to a nice dinner. Went to downtown Denver on Christmas Eve for a very fantastic meal. A little surf and turf, little stay. It was expensive. By the time I paid for dinner on Christmas Eve, I came home to see if I could return all the Christmas gifts. That was one of those. It was one of those bills. You're like, oh, yeah, that's expensive. And then the next day for lunch, it's just my son and I, we met a friend and her family at the sushi place. We had sushi. The Asians, the Asians just love to be open on Christmas Day. It's not just the Christmas story, fra rah 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 for rah rah rah. It's real. They're all open. So we had sushi, and then by that night, I got a little stir crazy. My son, as I said, had camped out. He got his new PlayStation 5, and he put it on the main television in the main living area where I'd normally watch football, but fortunately, I have other television, so I could watch football. And I said, I'm stir crazy, got to get out of here. And we went to Waffle House. Yeah, Waffle House. We went from high end, a really expensive meal to a Waffle House, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I had a breakfast for dinner late night on Christmas night. So if you saw me at Waffle House, hello, yeah, that was me. I'm a Southern boy. Every time I walk into Waffle House, and I got to get to Nils Grivillius, every time I walk into Waffle House, it's like once a year, once every 2 years. When I was in the music industry and had touring bands out there that I managed, we had Waffle House a lot. The Waffle House was like after the concert, before you got the bus to the next city, you went to the Waffle House. Now I don't go to the Waffle House as much, but back in those days, you could smoke at the Waffle House. And every time I don't even smoke cigarettes, but every time I walk into a Waffle House, I wish I had a cigarette. I mean, I want an unfiltered Camel every time I walk in there. Hey, honey, what do you want? Anybody else feel that way at the Waffle House? I mean, no, I'm not judging. I would, if they would allow it, I would have participated with it. At least I would have borrowed one of Delilah's Virginia Slims. At least I would have done that. But they don't allow smoking at the Waffle House. It's not the same. That biscuits and gravy, those scrambled eggs don't taste the same without the cigarette at the Waffle House. But anyway, I hope you had a great Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. All right, question of the day is this. Who would be your person of the year? Time Magazine says the architects of AI are the person of the year. Your question of the day, who is it that would be your person of the year? Love to hear from you. Ladies and gentlemen, famed private investigator Nils Grivillius is going to join us here on the stage. I got to read. We have a private chat that guests can comment on. And when Nils showed up on the scene at 8:42 a.m. Mountain Time, that'd be 7:42 Pacific Time, where he's in the Los Angeles area, he just typed, "Up jumped the monkey from the coconut grave." What the heck does that mean, Nils? I don't even know what that means.
Well, it's a coconut grove, not a coconut grave.
Oh, okay. That makes a little bit more sense, but not really.
Well, to anyone who was in the infantry 40 years ago, they're very familiar with a cadence that starts out, "Up jumped the monkey from the coconut grove." And everything after that is somewhere between NC-17 and Jimmy and Nils getting spanked hard by someone. Now, speaking of being in the infantry at Fort Benning, Georgia, the outside community is Columbus, Georgia. And at Columbus Municipal Auditorium on Tuesday nights, they had pro wrestling. And after the pro wrestling, if you went to the Waffle House in Casita, Georgia, I think it was Casita, all of the characters who were in the stands watching the wrestling matches would be at the Waffle House And that's where all the real wrestling took place.
I remember after concerts, before the tour buses head down the road, you'd head to the Waffle House, and my niche in the music world, I was in the Christian music world, so you have these touring bands, and you'd be surprised how many people would find you walk into Waffle House, you just want to pack his Marlboro Reds. You want to go at it, and it's just something about it. But they don't allow that anymore. But those were the days. Waffle House, it's good stuff. All right, Michael. So Michael Letts is in the green room. Michael, good to see Michael in there. He's watching. He's wondering what the heck Nils and I are going to talk about. Nils, jump in here. I got to ask you this. I've got a couple of other stories I want to get to, but one of those is right down the road from me, about 25 minutes that way, is a home that in 1996, a murder happened. The name is John Benet Ramsey. About 25 minutes. My office in Boulder used to be just up the road from when I had an office in Boulder. It was literally a 5-minute walk to the John Benet Ramsey house. Is that a case you followed? You're a famed private investigator. You've worked with the Pinkertons. I mean, when you watch from afar the 30-plus years of John Benet Ramsey fiasco, what goes into your head as a private investigator? We're right at last week was the anniversary of that killing. Well,
there's been a lot of tabloid nonsense about the case, number one. Number two, the other part that a lot of people don't realize is that without a corroborated confession from the perpetrator, the police would have prosecutor would have a very hard time making a case against any defendant. The police initially treated the case as a kidnapping and didn't search the premises. I believe it was Jean Benet's father, John Bennett Ramsey, who found her remains. There's a lot of garbage in the media about semen being found at the scene. There is unidentified male DNA that was found 7 years after the murder from going over various pieces of evidence. There's traces of male DNA. Nothing in it has said semen, according to anything I have read. That is pure speculation. Now, the other thing we have to speculate about is the males who left DNA behind could have left DNA behind from something other than, abduction, murder, assault, any of that. So there's already been at least one false confession to this case. The police did not handle it well. There are a lot of experts at criminology, that sort of thing, who have testified at various things, including a civil case where somebody was sued for libel by a member of the Ramsey family, where a judge made a specific finding, that sort of thing. Anybody commenting on this case should tap dance around any accusations of the Ramsey family, because they will proactively enforce their rights, which you can't blame them for doing. When somebody talks about statistics, when a female, juvenile or adult, is killed in her own home 999,000 times out of 1 million, it is a male relative who has killed her. The rest of the time, it is a female relative who killed her. Okay, it's very rare for a stranger to get in and out of a house killing a child like this and in the manner that it occurred. The ransom note, the threat from the kidnapper, reads like something out of like a 1970s daytime TV show or something like that. It's melodrama. It's not a bona fide ransom note. And of course, she was already dead at the time the note was found. Yeah. So my thoughts are that the person who murdered Jean Benet Ramsey will never be brought to justice, even if they are properly exposed through scientific investigation and that sort of thing.
Was I guess the real mistake here? This was probably, would you estimate, have been a solvable crime had the Boulder Police Department done a better job in sealing off the crime scene? I mean, there's supposedly evidence in the alley, male footprints, a cracked open window. Did it all start with just the first responders screwing it up?
Does Rose Kennedy own a black dress, Mr. Lakey? Do we have a loose connection here?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes. I don't want to gainsay the people who actually had to do the work. They're responding to a 911 call about an abduction, and they missed a basic thing, which is anytime a child goes missing, whether it's a purported kidnapping or anything else, you completely search the premises of the home, including vehicles.
Yeah. All right, another crime that kind of keeps popping up in the news story is Scott Peterson. Some people might remember how he was supposedly or was convicted of killing his wife, Lacey Peterson. There's a whole project out there called the LA Innocence Project that's pushing a theory that Scott Peterson didn't do it, and Scott Peterson actually keeps going to court to say, hey, let me offer this crime. Have you followed the Scott Peterson crime saga? And he's still fighting for his innocence.
Innocence? You can't fight for something you never had, Mr. Lakey. This is what I will say. Barry Scheck runs or used to run the Innocence Project. The Innocence Project is, to me, a scam. That's my opinion. He's using the Scott Peterson case to draw in donations from hysterical liberals. Mark Garagos is a friend of his. They're on speed dial with each other. Mark Garagos was Peterson's attorney from the start. Garagos tries all of his cases in the media. He doesn't try cases in court. And what his real effort was to sway one juror in the original trial, reasonable doubt at an unreasonable price. Mark Garagos is one of the most expensive lawyers in the Western Hemisphere, Mr. Lakey. And he'll go to court and he'll say pretty much anything. I mean, he once defended the most prolific insurance fraud in American history, I believe, a man named Rex K. DeGeorge. He said that the man who was convicted of sinking a yacht for insurance money lost his yacht to a Russian submarine. I know you think I'm making this up, but all you have to do is Google search Rex DeGeorge insurance fraud, and it will pop up. It will overpopulate your Google search, okay? Mark Garagos, this is what he does. Mark Garagos created the fiction that the Los Angeles County Sheriff had Alzheimer's, Lee Barker. Lee Barker was the only Alzheimer's patient in Los Angeles County who jogged 4 miles unescorted every day through San Marino while he was up on federal criminal charges. Okay, so I've seen this over and over and over again. Scott Peterson, in my opinion, is not innocent. They're doing this as a publicity stunt to raise money for the Innocence Project. The Innocence Project has nothing to do with innocence. The Innocence Project has to do with funding criminal defense work for some people who may in fact be innocent, but most of the people that they take up the calls for turn out to be guilty, or guilty, at least guilty of something.
If you're listening later in the day on the podcast version, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcast, Podbean, etc., thousands of earballs will hear and or see this show by the end of the day, end of the week. Nils Grivillius, Private Detective, has got a book coming out real soon, 2026. You'll want to get a copy of it, but Nils Grivillius is my guest. Nils, our question of the day is, who is our person of the year? Time Magazine has said that AI architects are the person of the year. We've had people nominate Charlie Kirk. We've had Donald John Trump. We've had ICE agents nominated. Is there somebody that pops into your head, Nils Grivillius, that would be a person of the year? If the Grivillius magazine put a person on the cover for 2025, who would be the person of the year?
I wouldn't hesitate to put Dan Bongino on the cover of the magazine. Danny Bongino left a very lucrative media enterprise to take a thankless job as deputy director of the FBI under a limited scope. He said that it was going to be somewhat limited. He had concentrated on the January 6th pipe bombing, which Christopher Wray's people had decided wasn't that important, probably because it would make them look stupid or politically compromised, more so than they already were. And Danny Bongino brought the goods. He also launched a major crime task force from the Bureau to go after violent street criminals, narco traffickers, people trafficking juveniles for the purposes of prostitution and other exploitation. Danny Bongino is a stud warrior, and we all should all be grateful to this man. He embodies professionalism in law enforcement, and he's entertaining as hell, Mr. Lakey. I don't know if you've ever listened to the man's podcast or radio show. He did a fantastic job. He did every single thing that he said that he would do with a sober head. Okay. Now, I hope him stepping down next month from the FBI has absolutely nothing to do with health problems. In the past, he has battled cancer quite valiantly. He's a traditional American family man. He and Paula are great Americans, Paula being his wife. They deserve every respect. And he does not showboat. He gets the job done. He brings the goods, brings receipts, as he says. And I think the man should be right up there on the cover of Grivillius, Detective Services, a monthly magazine, you know, with lots of pornographic photos of guns and things like that. You know, all the things that people like to look at when they crack open a good magazine, right?
All right, we're heading to 2026. Nils Grivillius is our guest. You've got a book coming out called The Last Lawman. It's your story, and when that's going to be available, folks can start pre-ordering that.
Yes, they can. It's available on Amazon right now, and you can order 28 copies for various family members, Mr. Lakey. It'll be delivered in June, just in time to wreck somebody's Father's Day. Why get him a vulgar necktie when you can get him 30 years of running and gunning on the streets of Los Angeles, international jobs, bringing in fugitives, investigating corrupt judges, things like that. That has been the bedrock of my practice. I don't take on cheating husbands. Insurance companies are loath to call me because I make them pay a premium. But that's okay. I like my work. I enjoy it whole, and I plan on being in the saddle for many more years, Mr. Lakey.
Have you been watching this stuff? Last question in Minnesota, as this fraud has unraveled earlier. I was talking to Michael Letts about this assassination that happened to the former Speaker of House of Minnesota. Now you're like, well, maybe it was tied to the Somalia stuff because she had actually stood in the way of some of this government funding and corruption of these programs. Have you ever watched those political cases like in Minnesota and go, they ought to call me. I could get to the bottom of this thing?
Well, yeah, I say that. I'd need subpoena and search warrant authority, so I'd have to be deputized by the Attorney General or something like that. I'd be happy to do it, though, Jimmy. I really would. I'm going to say this. Homeless funds, daycare funds, drug rehab funds, that sort of thing. That's cryptocurrency for parasite class Democrats running these NGOs, whether they're Somali. Here in Los Angeles, we have one called Churla. They're the ones who festoon all of our freeways with anti-ICE signs at public expense and send rioters out to fling rocks at ICE and the CHP from overpasses, that sort of thing. It's just their cryptocurrency. Why should anybody actually invest in a pension or something like that when they can rent a commercial location, get it licensed as a daycare, and take on $3 million a year and do nothing but sit around drinking Starbucks and playing Sudoku?
Yeah. Nils Grivillius, I appreciate you this year coming on the program. Our guest, one of our regular guests, like Michael Letts earlier today, Kenneth Abramowitz. We have the cast of characters all on the show today. Nils, if folks want to learn more about you, they can go to GrivilliusPI.com and maybe get you on the case. You're not going to go look for cheating husbands. Don't call them about that. However, you will. You can tell them how to get a copy of the book. Order the book.
It's available on Amazon. If anybody wants to check in on me from time to time, I'm on X, formerly Twitter, at Detective Nils. I want all of Colorado, all of your earball listeners to enjoy a lovely day, and I want them all to be assured that I have the best face for radio ever.
You do. That's why we turned your camera on. We wanted to see how good that face was for radio. Nils Grivillius, a happy new year to you, sir. I appreciate you. That's a great suggestion. Dan Bongino, person of the year. And up jumped the monkey from the Coconut Grove, and now the monkey has gone back to the Coconut Grove. Nils Grivillius, appreciate him being here. I can't wait to get a copy of that book in June and read the escapades of Nils Grivillius. And we got to ask him next time, is that a PG-13 book, or is that a how much detail is he going to give? We're not exactly sure. We'll find out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you this. I got a question for you, and I want to play this video again of Nick Shirley. If you missed it earlier in the show, this is Nick Shirley. And I started to think over the weekend as I was watching the Nick Shirley reporting, I started to think over the weekend, I said, if only my charity work or Michael Letz's charity work, if only we would have declared it daycares for Somalia children, I guess we could have had all of our projects funded. I'm guessing that would have worked. I'm thinking, I got kids in Rwanda and we're running an actual school. There's actually kids in our school. It's a novel concept, and we scramble for every nickel and every dime to fund that. But I'm wondering if I could go to Timmy Waltz and just say, "Hey, Timmy, Tampon Tim, I have a daycare for Somalia kids. It happens to be in Rwanda. Could you fund it?" They'd probably build the rest of our campus, producer Chad. If we could just convince Timmy Waltz, Tampon Timmy, that our school in Rwanda is actually a Somalia daycare, we probably could make some money there. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. I love this little meme here. Look at me. I run the daycare now. There's the pirate, the Somalia pirates running the I run the daycare now. How would you like to drop your kid off and see that guy? Yeah, that's not a good thing. Very bad thing. I did hear that perhaps the professional football teams and baseball teams and all the teams in Minnesota, it's no longer going to be the Vikings. It's going to be the Pirates. That's what I hear. The Minnesota Twins are going to become the Pirates. The Minnesota Vikings are going to become the Pirates as well. So, by the way, here's just one more funny, and I'll play the Nick Shirley information. Philip Rivers already has more children than the entire Minneapolis Somalia daycare system. There's old Philip Rivers, who's now signed up with the Indianapolis Colts, and he's like 95 years old. But he's got more kids than those daycares did. So it's corruption. Here's Nick Shirley again. This is his reporting. I'd go find him on X if you don't follow Nick. We'll try to get him on the program here. I'm sure he's really busy. I've reached out, but I haven't heard back. But here's Nick Shirley talking about what he found as he went to a daycare center that was actually, they couldn't even spell the word right. Go ahead.
Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong, and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. And if you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working. Midday, children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing. And like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
That's great reporting. And next time you turn on, and I'll even say this about Fox News and Newsmax, why did they have reporters out doing what Nick Shirley did? This story's been percolating and circulating for a long time. And, rather than the silliness of sending, who's the guy that Jesse Waters sends out to do stuff? I mean, why don't they, none of the mainstream media, and I'll throw Newsmax and Fox in there, none of them did what Nick Shirley did. They just went, knocked on the doors and said, what's going on? And you just have to start scratching your head and realize that what they try to report to you is oftentimes what they want you to know. They want you to know. They want you to know but they don't want you to know what they don't want you to know, and they won't report what they don't want you to report. ABC, NBC, CBS. Have you ever watched those people out there? Yeah, if you ever watch those people out there, they're just propagandizing you. It's Jesse Waterson's Johnny out there. Remember this man on the streets interviews? You know, Waters could have sent him out to the Somalia coast there in Minneapolis and done some research. Good job for Nick Shirley. Give him a follow, give him a like, and good job on Nick Shirley for doing that. All right, I joke that $1.9 million would really, and that complete our entire high school campus in Rwanda? That would complete our entire, this is our primary school campus, right? I've showed you this photo before. This is the building we're about to start construction on these. That's kindergarten through 6th. And we got a whole high school up the road we're going to put in. 1.9 million would do that. So if we could just convince someone that we are a Somalia daycare, I think that would go very far in finishing up the construction of that. In the meantime, until we can convince Tampon Tim that we're a Somalia daycare, before we wrap up the show today, the next to last show of 2025, we'll do one more show tomorrow. Last week, or was it last week? I think 2 weeks ago, I said we wanted about 15 people that would do $1,950 one-time end-of-year gift that would fund a classroom at our school that I just showed you that actually has children in it in Rwanda that fund that classroom for an entire month. That's about $65 a kid. That gives them their meals, their health insurance. That gives them all of them. We have 3 days left in 2025, and I need 4 more 1950s. Let me say that again. We have 3 days left, and I need 4 more. 3 days, 4 more. And so if you could possibly contribute, maybe you can't do the whole 1950, but make as large a possible one-time end-of-year gift possible. Again, there's a lot of corrupt organizations out there that they're going to pretend they have children inside a daycare in Minneapolis. We actually have children in our school. So as we wrap up the year, we got 3 days. I need 4 more. If you can help us out, I would really appreciate that. If you can do the $1,950, do that. Go to the website, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Make that donation, $1,950. So if you can do part of that, all of that, if we get 4 more people that would just do all of the $1,950, a one-time gift, that funds an entire classroom at Legacy Christian Academy for an entire month next year, and we could use your help. I need about 4 more of those. So if you can help us, 4 more in 3 days. Legacy Christian Academy, Rivers Promise. Go to the website, riverspromise.org, and I promise you that we actually have children in our school, and we are actually teaching classes, etc. This is not a front organization for the Democrats, and we're not funneling money back to Somalia or anything like that. We're not even close to Somalia. So Rivers Promise, you can help us. I need 4 more in 3 days. 4 more in 3 days, 1950. It's not just a great year that some of you were alive and I was not alive, but it's also a great amount that can help a lot of kids. 4 more 1950s. I could use those in the next 3 days. I'm down to the wire, my friends, but I appreciate your help. $1,950. I need 4 more in 3 days. Tomorrow on the program, we'll talk about New Year's resolutions. What will yours be? How will you spend your New Year's Eve? I talked about the survey earlier today. The people did people want to watch Netflix on New Year's Eve. And yeah, we'll talk a lot of fun stuff tomorrow on the program, and great cast of characters today. Want to thank all of our friends for coming on the program today. Some of our favorites from the year. Always Michael Letts is a great friend of the program. You love hearing him. Kenneth Abramowitz, real smart guy, SaveTheWest.com. And also don't forget Nils Grivillius. A lot of you love Nils. He's a new find, a new addition on the program this year, and we want to be thankful for all of them coming on the program. All right, one more quick thing. We're going to do this. We're going to do the memes here in just a second. Don't worry. Don't fret your merry little hearts. We're going to do the memes. But I want to remind you, I need about 4 more people in 3 days to do $1,950 for our charity. If you can't remember it, it's riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. And the reason I say 3 days, because this is the giving year. And as you know, it's a 501c3 organization. You get a tax benefit if you do make those donations. I give to charities and I forget the receipt sometimes, but it does come in helpful for some of those larger donations to get that tax benefit. So riverspromise.org, we need that donation time stamped by midnight in December 31st. So we got to get that in. Go to the website, riverspromise.org. And if you can't do the whole 1950, help us out with something year-end donations down to the wire. And you only have to hear me talk about one more day after today. I want to thank Sherry Cree also. What a great year it's been with Sherry. We've enjoyed having her on the program since day one. She believed in the craziness that producer Chad and I talked about in doing this show. And by the way, 2026, maybe tomorrow we'll also tease a little bit. We got some new things coming for the show in 2026. You don't want to miss that, including the road show. We're going to do a couple of road shows here, and we're going to go out on the road and do the show. That's what a road show means. It's pretty simple how we put that. So all that's coming up. We'll do that. Again, I reminded you early in the program, homeswithsherry.com 2026. Get on the schedule. Start that strategy session. Get in touch with her and make those real estate dreams come true. Real estate can be that thing that does create generational wealth. For some of you, it's going to be, you're not going to get a pension, but you're going to have a house to one day you're going to have some equity in, and you're going to create some wealth out of that. Homeswithsherry.com. And again, first-time home buyers, she'd love to talk to you. If you got a kid, grandkid, want to get them in touch, and tell them it's a gift card, and they'll get a consultation with Sherry, and she can help them 2026 be the time that their real estate dreams come true. They get their first home. So homeswithsherry.com. Talked about it early in the show. Want to say again, thank you as we wrap up this year, homeswithsherry.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we always steal memes. Intellectual property thievery is alive and well. It ain't just the Chinese that are stealing property from the internet. It's us. We steal it. We try to give a little credit here and there, but it's called the stolen meme section of the show. It's meme roulette, and I have no control over it. If there's something that offends you, suck it up, Buttercup. I didn't do it. It's all producer Chad's fault. Ready? Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Some days I eat salads and go to the gym. Some I chase 10 tacos with dozen shots of tequila. It's called balance. Oh, I get it. It's those little signs of the. Some days I eat salads and go to the gym, and some days I chase 10 tacos with a dozen shots of tequila. It's called balance. It's also called Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Well, what else are you going to do on Taco Tuesday? Of course. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. I knew he looked familiar. Ladies and gentlemen, Timmy Waltz there. And the Crazy Karen meme right there. They look very, very familiar. Yeah, they all look weird, don't they? Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Here we go. Technically, Ron says it's the period of time between Christmas and New Year. No one knows what day it is. Time doesn't really exist. Can we start drinking at 10 a.m.? Why not? Existence is a confusion. It is that time of year. Yesterday, I was asking, what day is it? What day is it? Sunday? Is somebody? Our church didn't meet on that yesterday because it was a holiday and they took the time off, and after Christmas services they take that week off. Anyway, I was so confused on the date, and I don't know what time of the day it is right now. Right around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Here's Donald Trump signing an executive order crying Democrats should pace themselves. I haven't even got to the good stuff yet. If you listen to Michael Letts, some good stuff's going to be coming up in 2026. Yeah, but you thought the Democrats were squawking then before. Wait till next year. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Annual inflation hits a 4-year low. Trump must be stopped. I was watching even some of the local news. I was going through websites, and they said they did a whole story on holiday price items that had gone up in the last year. Not reflecting anything about the annual inflation rate being an all-time low, not talking about the price of eggs, not talking about all the things that have come down. They cherry-picked one or two items and said, look, the price has gone way up. Not even talking about the price of gasoline, the cost of the pump going way down. The media is out there biased in their propagandists, and don't watch them. You got to watch guys like me and watch guys like Nick Shirley. That's where you get the truth, and the truth will set you free. Hallelujah. I threw the hallelujah in there for the fun of it. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Oh, my goodness. Monica Lewinsky pops up in a meme. She spent more time in the Oval Office than Joe Biden did. Yeah. I was going to say, yes, just leave it at that. Monica Lewinsky spent more time in the Oval Office than Joe Biden did. Yep. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Hillary was asked how Epstein files compared to the Monica Lewinsky scandal, and Hillary said, well, it's close, but no cigar. No cigar. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, China has reached in, and they said no more stealing intellectual property, so we have to stop it for the day. All right, there you have it. All right, again, what I needed, 4 people, 3 days, $1,950, $1,950. If you can't do $1,950, could you do $190.50? Could you do $19.50? It all helps us get to the goal for Legacy Christian Academy. We start off the year very good. By the way, for every gift of $50 or more that comes in the next 2 days, I will send you one of these beautiful red Rivers Promise stainless steel coffee tumblers. I will send you one of those. I know some of you got some last week. Bucket load went out last week. We'll send you one of those $50 or more. But we'd love to hear from you today, $19.50 before the end of the year deadline. And we'll also put a thank you card on there with you. That's one of our thank you cards that go out. I'll sign it myself and say thank you for your generosity. So anyway, all that can be yours. $50. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. It's been a pleasure, my friends. One more show this year. That's tomorrow morning, and we'll talk about New Year's resolutions. And we'll continue to talk about who the person of the year should be. It's been a pleasure, my friends. We'll talk about the future of the show, 2026. Got some big-time plans coming up for that. Riverspromise.org. Go make a donation today, riverspromise.org. Appreciate all of you. Hello, Rumble. Yes, we're on Rumble, Lakey Unleashed. Look it up on the X, on the YouTube, on the Facebook, many Facebook feeds. Hello, Apple Podcast. If you're listening later in the program, don't forget, like us on all the podcast platforms. And if you're missing the podcast or you're listening to the podcast, you can't interact, send us an email, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com. From the bottom of my heart, thanks for being a part of the program today. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.